Good morning and welcome to the Live Exchange, where we exchange compelling dialogue around love, politics, and intellect every Thursday from 11 to 1. I'm Dr. Pamela, and today we're going to be discussing what it means to actually embrace life's detours. We've all experienced detours of some sort. We have this perfect plan. I know I had this perfect plan. I was going to go to college and meet this amazing husband and get married and then have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and I was going to be a CNN reporter and all these wonderful plans. But, you know, there are some detours, and that detour for me was, well, didn't quite go the way I expected, but it's amazing because I love where I've ended up, and I think I love the path and the journey that my life has taken. So how do we actually embrace these detours that happen when things don't go the way that we plan, especially for you type A personalities out there who have this articulate plan laid out and things don't work out? So we're going to talk about that today. And we have a guest, comedian Kathy Duby. She is here. She's going to share some of her story, her passions, her work in social justice, and all of that great stuff. So stay with us. We have a lot to talk about today, including a couple of really, I think, interesting theories. So we're going to look at that as well. Stay with us. We'll be right back on the Live Exchange.
Station Network. No word in the English language is less convincing than probably.
Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure. We'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, now tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay.
Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Viola Davis. Did you know that 1 in 5 kids in America struggle with hunger? Growing up, I was one of those kids, but we can solve this. When we make breakfast happen for kids in our neighborhood, we have the power to end childhood hunger, create bigger, brighter school days, and healthier minds and bodies. Go to hungeris.org and lend your time or your voice.
We're hungry for more.
A message from the Albertsons Companies Foundation and the Entertainment Industry Foundation.
JBT 700 Miami Circle 30324. It's not a chain, it's a chain reaction.
Invest $49 a month at a real gym.
For more info, go to facebook.com/Jeans Body Tech.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win a Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He guides us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Deliberate dumbing down.
Dumb down society.
Deliberate dumbing down of America.
Dumb down public. Why would they do this?
Sensation Station Network. Radio not dumbed down.
Good morning and welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela and I am thrilled to introduce our guest, comedian Kathy Duby, who I had the pleasure of meeting while being entertained by Cedric the Entertainer. And she was in the room and she was just full of light and full of spirit, and we absolutely had to bring her on to the Live Exchange. Welcome, Kathy.
I'm so happy to be here, Dr. Pam. You know, it's like light is attracted to light.
Yes.
You know, and it's energy. You know that's true, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and being real and being sincere. And, you know, that night when we met, I don't know if I told you a little bit of the backstory. The bottom line was, the DJ's brother was in the hospital, and I asked him if he could turn the music on. I can go on stage and, like, be silly and dance around. And I started videotaping myself, and that's how I met you.
Yes.
You know, and it was fantastic. And we just started a dialogue and connected, and that's how you get to where you're going in life.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
Absolutely. And you mentioned networking earlier before we got on the air, and people who know me regularly know that I hate and loathe networking. I just freeze, and really, that was networking.
Yes.
And there was no freezing that was involved with that. It was just a matter of being willing to just be open and communicate and just be in the moment. So,
right.
yeah.
And that's really in entertainment anyway. People who are able to get in touch with their most authentic self have the ability to connect the most and to engage the most in a generation where people are not engaging.
Absolutely.
You know, so
And
I mean, obviously I have silver hair. I'm a more mature professional, entertainer, but the bottom line is it all boils down to that, the ability to connect on a human level with another person, because let's face it, everybody wants attention, affection, and approval, right?
Absolutely.
It's
a basic human need. Absolutely.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and
Okay. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about how I got to the comedy part anyway. So just originally I'm from Florida. I'm born and raised in Florida. I'm adopted. I was adopted when I was a month old. And, I ended up, I went to college. I thought I wanted to be a nurse initially. And I just, like you said, how God takes you in a different direction.
Right.
And I know for sure that God does have a sense of humor, because he says man makes plans and God laughs. So I went to school and I thought that I was going to be a nurse, and I my personality is more, I'm prone towards sales and marketing.
Okay.
So I ended up getting into the healthcare industry through sales and marketing.
There's a first detour.
Yeah, that was
maybe
my
not the first, but it's a detour.
Right. And I got into home health marketing, which is marketing the services of nurses that take care of people in the home.
Okay.
And then I got into home infusion, which is the people that make, the pharmacists that make the medicine that goes in the IV bags that go home with the patients from the hospital that the nurses take care of. And then eventually I ended up selling capital medical equipment, large pieces of equipment into hospitals and all of that. So I've always been able to connect with people, because in sales, it's people like you, they buy from you.
Right.
Bottom line.
Absolutely.
And my personality is such that I like to give a feel-good experience. I like to feel like I'm your friend.
She's not lying.
And that's the truth. And when people sell to me, I don't want a pushy sales experience either. I want a feel-good experience.
Right.
So, and I just to bring this up as part of my story, I moved to Atlanta in 2000, and the reason I decided to move to Atlanta was, at the time, I went to the Grand Hyatt. I'm sure a lot of people in Atlanta can appreciate this, a Grand Hyatt New Year's Eve millennial party. And I looked around Atlanta, and my observation, as a gift as a comedian, as observation, I observed that this was, to me, the Disney World of bars. And I have, unfortunately, or fortunately, I have the allergy to alcohol. I cannot metabolize alcohol, and I found out that I have a problem with alcohol. And I got sober 14 and a half years ago. So if I had not initially been attracted to Atlanta for that reason, I don't know if I would have gotten sober or not. Atlanta has an amazing recovery community. So that's what drew me here initially. And then when I got sober in the summer of 2003, all of my talents and skills and capabilities become much more heightened, and I became more aware of them based on working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And a lot of entertainers are, sober people and have struggle with that. And so when I realized I had that problem and I went in there, I was surrounded by actors and actresses and radio people and you name it, comedians. And I realized I had the gift of the funny just by how I would share in meetings. People say, do you realize you're funny?
So you learned that here?
I did.
Wow.
I did.
Okay.
I learned that, obviously I had it. It's a coping skill also.
Absolutely.
Comedy is a coping skill when you're horribly bullied. And pretty much, I used to be really cute, Dr. Pam. I still got some of it.
She's still got it. She's still got it.
I still have some of it. But that's kind of the gist of, like where I'm from and my story of how I got here. And it's, as you well know, I'm sure, it's life is an evolution. It's a process.
Yes.
I believe in an intelligent designer. I have faith. I don't think I could survive my life thus far if I didn't have faith. But, it's literally for me, my sobriety is core. It's one of the most important things to me. And then, of course, my faith is number one, and then my sobriety is number two, and my relationships and all of that. And so now I'm in this incredible process. I started in comedy in 2009, didn't get serious until 2010. I'm 7 years into this. I took a short detour. A lot of people, especially women, we have a different story than a lot of men.
Yeah.
There's a lot more challenges.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I will talk about that, definitely. So, but that's kind of the basis of who I am and how I got here. And, but anyway.
Well, no, and so there's two things that I'm going to bookmark that I want to know more about. I want to know more about that moment that you got on stage for the very first time. And then I would love to hear more about your experience as a woman trying to navigate through this industry.
Right.
But before we get into that, we're going to first get into trending topics.
Lack of diversity. Gas prices.
Michael, yes, trending topics.
All right, so this is a really shocking, I still have chills looking at this headline, but for those of us who are here in Atlanta, we just lost a veteran news anchor, Amanda Davis. The news broke yesterday. She was actually on the way to, I believe, it was Texas, and she was on the way to her stepfather's funeral, and she was at the airport and had a massive stroke. And unfortunately, just an hour ago reported that she has passed away as a result of the stroke. Yeah. It's chills because here you are living your life, doing your thing, going to mourn the passing of a close family member, and then just at any moment, it's just very shocking. Yeah, you never know. And so for those of you who are not in the Atlanta area, I encourage you to just kind of look her up. She has quite the story, Amanda Davis, and she has been extremely resilient considering some of the personal battles that she's had, throughout her life and her career, but has remained resilient, has remained, so it's really, that just, I don't know, that's a shocker.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of the comedians were talking about it last night on stage because they said, tomorrow's never promised, and that we as entertainers also have to be ever present and have a mindset of treating all people with dignity and respect.
Right.
And that realizing we have a platform to help and serve, and that it isn't just about money or fame or power.
Right.
It's not about reaching the mountaintop of what the world considers success. It's about the climb.
Absolutely.
And the character building that goes on during the climb.
And based on what I've read about her, she did a lot of character building in her climb. And so she was 62 years old, gone too soon. So condolences to the family.
Right.
Absolutely. On another note, our president has taken a lot of credit for people being willing to say Merry Christmas these days. Excuse me. It was one of those things that was tweeted or put out. I think it was on Christmas Day that, he was thanking himself for, being the champion for being willing, to say Merry Christmas and all of that. I find very interesting.
Well, some of us believe that's called ego.
Yeah. And it's interesting because one of the analysts on one of the networks was saying that it's interesting because Christmas is a time where we think about Jesus and we think about God and we think about giving reverence to God. And here our president is seeking reverence and praise on, on a day that really isn't about him. So.
Well, I think people that reach any level of fame or popularity struggle with the character defect of vainglory. And I think that whether it is a televangelist or a missionary or a president, a politician, or an entertainer, I think it can be easy to be swallowed up with the adulation and the seeking of that adoration, and the needing of that. And there's, as you know, I'm sure anyone in entertainment knows, is there's flux, there's give and take and up and down in the industry, and in anything really. But when someone reaches that level of success, they can just relax, and if there's humility there, you know how it is, right?
Yeah, I mean the reaching that level alone speaks volumes. So I love that. Relax, you've made it.
Right.
There's no need to shout it out by the rooftops. We see you.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I love it. All right, well, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, and father of 5. I'm also an expert on drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids, and there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org.
And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ed Council.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win a Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it. And it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He'd guide us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextsstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. I want to be a warm place on a cold day. Football stadium. I want to be a bike that races around the country. I want to be a bench on a forest trail. When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
All right, welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and I am sitting here with comedian Kathy Duby, and we are talking about life's detours. We're going to cover quite a bit on today's show. There's so many different aspects. So she was telling us about her experience with, coming to Atlanta and discovering I'm funny and people notice it and it means something here. And so I would love to know, kind of how you evolved into that, how you, that first getting on stage for the first time has to be, I can't even imagine.
Well, it's funny, Dr. Pam, that you would say that, because I feel so comfortable on stage most of the time. As a female comedian is a little different, because oftentimes we're mostly surrounded by men. There's not as many women, obviously, in the business.
Right.
But the first time I got on stage was at the Laughing Skull at the Vortex, which was, there's several locations, but downtown Atlanta. And I felt so comfortable on stage and relaxed, because I enjoy that engagement that comes from the response of an audience.
Right.
You know, and I know you know that because
Yeah.
this is what you do.
But the thing is, to get on stage to tell jokes
Yes.
is a whole different thing.
It is.
You know, because people have to laugh.
Right, right. No, they don't always, though, Dr. Pam.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you get on stage, people are listening, especially if you go up in the first 2 or 3.
Right.
If you're the first one, like I go up a lot. Either number 1, number 2, or number 3. And the reason is, and I can't read minds, but there has been pervasive in the industry of comedy for the longest time. And it's been put in, you know, like in Vogue and all kinds of magazines, where women are not funny. Women are considered not funny by a lot of male comedians. Then mostly males are hosts of comedy shows. So there's a challenge for women in that sense, and especially when you're new and you're finding the funny.
Yeah.
You're evolving and you're finding your voice. It's like when you're a kid, you don't really know who you are, what you stand for, till you get in your 30s.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's the same thing for a comedian. And but the first time out of the gate, and this is the way I am, and they tell you shouldn't do this. Everything they tell you not to do, I did. I named myself.
I love it.
I did. I named myself a funny name, Chatty Cathy, because I am chatty. I named myself a silly name, and also you're not supposed to start with the high energy in the beginning of your show. And I started dancing, like doing the Running Man and acting silly, and like I did when I met you. And I'm bringing a lot of energy.
Right.
So when you bring a lot of energy in the beginning, people have a lot more expectation of it being funnier, funnier, funnier.
Right.
And I didn't. Obviously, I didn't know. I was
You don't want them to
ignorant.
peak early.
Right, right, exactly. So I didn't know that. So these are things you learn by doing. It's a kinesthetic way of learning, learn by doing. So I had to learn the hard way.
Wow.
But I will never forget. You either bomb or you get comedy gold. And the first time I went on, thank you, Jesus, I got comedy gold the first time I ever went on stage. At least that's what they said.
Wow.
So
that is great.
Whether they laugh at you or with you, Dr. Pam, it doesn't matter. As long as they're laughing.
As long as they're laughing. That is great. I mean, it's a great spirit to go into it with, you know, because if you have a lot of anxiety going into it, I would imagine that the audience would see that.
Oh, they feel it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you can't lie.
Right.
Yeah, they can tell.
Yeah.
And some of my friends bombed last night. They're new in the business, and they want a lot of encouragement and feedback from me because I've been in it for since for 7 years. And like I said, I took a little bit of a hiatus there with health issues and taking care of family. But once now that I'm back in it full speed ahead, it's my whole life has been social media. So I'm helping the younger ones to realize that it isn't like the old days when you had to go from comedy club to comedy club to comedy club and live out of a suitcase. Now your audience is right here, Facebook Live.
And I've seen that. A lot of the comedians who, Country Wayne, for example, I found him on Facebook and followed all of his work. And then as soon as he came to the Atlanta Comedy Theater, front and center, like, I got to see Country Wayne. I never would have known about him outside of social media. So I've seen a lot of comedians. There's another Jazzy, but she's hilarious.
Right.
And I'm following what she's doing. And so it's amazing that you guys have this platform. I should say we have this platform to be able to get discovered and build your audience and your following.
Well, this is how I saw it when it happened for me. I was recovering from major surgery, and I was always afraid of social media. I was afraid because the number one crime in our country is identity theft. And I also saw when I first started in comedy, when I would read the comment boards on CNN or Fox News or wherever I was, really, I saw the divisiveness of politics and how people they wanted an apology for a joke.
Yeah.
Like Tracy Morgan having to apologize to keep his job on 30 Rock. So I was like, wow, look at that. Everybody has an opinion, and we're comedians, we're not mind readers. So part of your audience can be offended and part of your audience not. So,
but I'd love to delve into that a little bit because there is a lot of political correct language that's going on, and now right now the big thing is sexual harassment.
Yes.
And the history of jokes around what could be considered sexual harassment are comedians feeling boxed in or feeling like they're being silenced or
the way I kind of deal with that, as I told you, we're on the radio, so I can't say exactly what I think because the bottom line is, I believe in Jesus, but I cuss a little. I mean, a lot. I don't want to lie, but I can't do that on the radio. But one of the things that I say in my act is, I was unconscious a lot, so I gave a lot of implied consent, if you know what I'm saying. So, oh, look, there's an unconscious woman. Let's have sex with her body. You get my point. So, and I've also had to learn how to adjust a joke. Like, as an example, Bill Cosby is a huge influence in the black community. I mean, he's an icon. I mean, he changed the way people look at people on television. I mean, as Dr. Huxtable. So I would tell a joke, you know, about how I used to not give consent for sex, you know, when I was drinking. And I would say I would yawn and pass out and wake up and say, "Hi, Bill Cosby." You know what I mean? But then I had to change it because it's not funny. I do a lot of my material in urban rooms, and I go, why isn't that joke working? And people would tell me, that's why. And so then I changed it to, it's interesting how it was funnier to say, you know, I used to yawn and pass out and wake up and say, "Hi, Dr. Huxtable, can I have an orange juice? Because those drugs you gave me cotton mouth. And I don't really understand why my vagina hurts." Or like, you know, I need some kaopectate too. You know what I mean? So those kind of things. And, you know, and you'd find out how people feel about something. But it's interesting how a joke will work in front of one audience one night and it won't work the next night and so on and so forth. So it's interesting also in social media how you get instant feedback.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you have to feel the pulse of the audience because right now there's a lot of people who are feeling raw and sensitive with the Me Too movement because all of these stories are just kind of, bringing up or, peeling the scab off of wounds. And so, you know, I can go on and on about this. So stay with us. If you guys have any questions, comments, you'd like to be a part of this conversation, give us a call, 678-613-5857. We'll be right back.
No word in the English language is less convincing than probably.
Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure. We'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, now tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay.
Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
it helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
And will give someone in my community
a second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
If you're looking for that ratchet, you're in the wrong place. It's the nation's urban internet station, Sensation Station Network.
In the interest of science.
All right. So today's research for the first hour of the show is activation theory. And I find this very interesting. This is brought to you, by the way, by Red Door Consulting. Red Door Consulting is a boutique consulting firm that prides itself as an innovative leader in brand development. So let Red Door Consulting upgrade you and your business today. Visit them at reddoorconsulting8, that's the number 8.com, reddoorconsulting8.com. So this is also known as arousal theory. So activation theory, arousal theory. So this theory describes how mental arousal is necessary for effective functioning, and that we need a certain level of activation in order to be motivated to achieve our goals, to do the work, and so on. And so there's something, we need a trigger. We need something that's going to get us going in order to move forward and to act and to do something. So a lot of times, we'll use Me Too as an example. The whole Me Too movement happened. Alyssa Milano had posted Me Too. She wasn't the first. There was, but it was a trigger to bring new life to the movement. And when everything came out about Weinstein, another source of activation, and it really got people going. So between the stories that were going around the web about Me Too, my stories, the stories that were being put out there, between that and all of the other stories that were coming out in Hollywood, there's an example of now we're activated. Now we're going to do something. Now we're going to have this conversation. We've been trying to get this conversation activated for decades.
Anita Hill.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many stories where women have had to stand alone, and because they have been bold enough to say, look, this has happened to me, and they've been criticized and ridiculed. And not that the criticism and ridicule isn't happening now, it's happening now. But now there are larger numbers, and there's a movement, and there are employers standing behind this now, like, okay, maybe we need to look at our policies. Maybe we need to revisit this issue. And so activation theory basically says that something needs to trigger, stimulate action for something to happen. And so at a lower level of activation, performance is decreased due to three factors. A lack of alertness, so we're not alert. Dulling of the senses. A dulling of the senses can be substance abuse. It can be sexual addiction. It can be all of those things that make us forget about what we really need to be focusing on. And then limited muscular coordination. So literally having a lack of physical ability to accomplish something. So this can be, so when I use the example of Me Too more as a collective, societal activation. But this really looks at an individual and how we get individuals to be motivated to act. So an example here is a person designing a job considers carefully the level of activation needed and includes just enough challenges and stimulation to keep the job holder interested. So just what do you need to do to get people motivated to act? So that's the theory.
Right. So. Well, a lot of business owners incentivize, like in sales and marketing.
Right.
You're incentivized to succeed. The business owner invests in you.
Right.
You're actually, every good salesperson and marketing person knows they create their own revenue streams and as much as they want. And a smart business owner will not cap that. They'll make it unlimited potential. And then, I've even worked in commission only structured systems, which, if you have that motivation, you can go anywhere with that, really. And when you're in the entertainment business, it's on you because you are your own brand.
Absolutely.
And I use, as an example, I'll use this, when I was, recovering from surgery and my Facebook went viral, I studied what Taylor Swift has done. And she may not be the greatest singer, and she may not be the greatest dancer, but she's like Steve Jobs with a vagina. You know what I'm saying? And she can't make all her fans feel special, but she can make 1 to 10% of those fans into super fans. And then those super fans carry her brand to the other people in her audience. And they think, well, Taylor's going to be my friend. Taylor's going to show show up at my prom. Taylor's going to buy me a house.
Right.
Taylor's going to send me a FedEx package, a care package or whatever, or write me an email or interface with me in some way. And she has cornered the market, even better than what Madonna did, because Madonna had the shock value. But Taylor is all-American girl that has connected and shown that you do not have to do bad things. You don't have to be a partner in crime with somebody. You don't have to do bad things or, bring negativity into the picture. You can do good things. And also, speaking of the hashtag Me Too, she was groped by a radio station DJ.
And won the case.
And she only asked for $1. He sued her.
Yeah.
She didn't sue him.
Oh, he sued her.
Yes, he sued her. And he was suing her because he lost his job. She complained.
Okay.
Because he groped her when they took a photo op.
Right.
And he lost his job. So he sued her for damages. And not only did he lose, but she won. And she only asked for $1. And it was to make a point. And so a lot of people had a problem with Taylor being on the cover of some magazine championing the hashtag Me Too movement when she did make a huge impact because she raised her voice.
Right.
And she complained when she was touched inappropriately. And I call it unwanted and uninvited touching.
Right, absolutely.
Is an assault.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You said people had a problem with that?
People had a problem with it. They thought that Taylor had actually sued him.
Oh, okay.
And all she did was just say, dude,
what difference
don't put your hands on me, man.
Yeah.
And then she said something. Because, you have your producer around. People are around. And she's like, dude. And it was observed.
Right.
She complained.
Yeah.
Get your hands off me. I didn't ask to be touched, especially on my buttocks.
Right.
So women have a right to be in the workplace and do their job, Dr. Pam,
Absolutely.
And not be assaulted.
Absolutely. Well, all right. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Here come.
JBT 700 Miami Circle 30324. It's not a chain, it's a chain reaction.
Invest $49 a month at a real gym.
For more info, go to facebook.com/Jeans Body Tech.
Connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
Keeping your balance with Dr. Pamela. Dr. Pamela. Dr. Pamela.
All right, so my balance challenge for you today is to look at this week, because it happens all the time. So something is going to happen that you don't expect this week. That always happens. So what happens? How do you react? How do you respond when something unexpected happens? So you have a meeting with somebody, they're late. You have a meeting with somebody, they cancel. You order food and they put the wrong thing in your bag. How do you respond? My challenge for you this week is to respond with grace and to respond in peace. I want you to be able to roll with the punches this week. So anything that happens that is out of your realm of expectation, I want you to handle it with grace. I want you to roll with the punches and report. Let me know. Let me know how you rolled with the punches this week, because this always happens. A lot of people are bent out of shape. Their whole day is messed up. Their mood is just shaken because they put a burger with pickles in there instead of just a burger.
Right.
So that's my challenge for you this week. How are you going to roll with the punches? Something unexpected happens. Somebody rubs you the wrong way. How are you going to roll with that in grace?
Well, if somebody steps on your toe, you're going to react, right?
Right.
That's how it happens.
Yes.
And especially in traffic for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
But what I learned when I got sober was it's called the power of the pause. Where you pause when agitated and you look at the HALT acronym. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Am I hungry? What's the solution? I could eat a sandwich. If I'm angry, I could punch a punching bag, or I could talk to somebody. I could go jog 5 miles, get that aggression out. If I'm lonely, I could call somebody. I could go to a meeting, I could talk to somebody. And if I'm tired, I could take a nap. And then there's the restraint of tongue and pen. If you write a text, don't send it right away. If you write an email, pause. Wait a day to send it. Wait 2 or 3 hours. Consult somebody. Read it to somebody. And then ask them, should I send this?
Yeah.
Consult someone. the power of the pause, especially even on stage sometimes, they tell us people are thinking. I might say a joke, and if I talk too fast, somebody could be 3 jokes back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Wow. That's good. Power of the pause. We'll be right back.
Great leaders aren't born. They're made, and not just anywhere. They're made in special places by special qualified trainers in places like the Academy of Creative Coaching. The Academy of Creative Coaching is an international certification program with courses in health and wellness coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, and cultural competency coaching. Courses are online, hybrid, or face-to-face. The Academy of Creative Coaching is empowering coaches to empower the world. Make a positive change in yourself and the world. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com.
Indoor baseball, anyone? Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, and father of 5. I'm also an expert on drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids, and there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org.
And lead the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
And so a new American industry has been born.
Sensation Station Network.
All right, welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela. I'm joined by comedian Kathy Duby, and before the break, we were talking. We were talking about the Balance Challenge, but before then, we were talking about sexual harassment and just some of the things that have been shifting as a result of people speaking out. And it's interesting because every single time I read about some issue related to sexual harassment, somebody's story, somebody's case, it is inevitable that I'm going to see somebody's comment that says, get over it, oh, really, why after 20 years, and all of this backlash. And I even had this conversation with one of my classes this semester, predominantly male class, and we had a really compelling conversation. I teach higher education, and I think that any person that's looking into going into higher education needs to have this conversation. So it's interesting because some of the men in the room were, like they were empathizing. I get it. Other men in the room were like, I kind of think they're just trying to get money. And why are they opening up now? What do you say to questions like that?
Well, I explain to people that the statute of limitations has run for a lot of people on some of these things, and I've been harassed. Like, I'll give you an example. I worked for someone who was an agent for an insurance company once, and I was his office manager. I was newly sober. I met him through the program, and I was emptying his trash one day, and he hit me in the back of the head as I went down to empty the trash and told me to perform oral sex on him.
Wow.
But I'm not going to use the words exactly he said because it's the radio. So what was I going to do? I asked people, what am I? Pick up my phone, 911, quick, could you come down here?
Right.
My boss just hit me in the back of the head and asked me for oral sex.
Right.
Buddy, hasn't signed my check yet. Hold on. Have you signed my check yet?
Yeah.
I've got to pay my bills kind of thing. And a lot of women go along to get along and continue, as you can see, even with the Harvey Weinstein thing, like Ashley Judd's a good example, continue to interface with their abuser, continue to make nice and play nice, and we're raised as women to go along, to get along.
Strategy,
and also, if you work around like I do, I'm in comedy, I'm surrounded by men. Can't she get along with men? Can't she, what's her problem? And a lot of times the focus is on the woman, and in the entertainment business, we're called difficult. And people's jobs were railroaded. They were called difficult. Pete Jackson just came out, the Lord of the Rings director, said that Ashley Judd, Rosanna Arquette, and there was one other one, I think even Rose McGowan were blacklisted. They were blackballed in the industry. So I tell men, I've lost count. Lots of women do. We have to compartmentalize that trauma. I've lost 7 to 10 jobs. I've left jobs. And even in sales and marketing, there's a lot of flux and all of that. There's give and take. You go to a company and they use the best of you, and then they want to pay somebody less money, even though you've created and built up a territory to be producing. Then they will delete you and put someone in it to run it so they don't have to pay you.
After you've built it up.
After you've built it up.
Yeah.
So I tell men, you want to perhaps judge these women and say they should have come forward sooner. We were conditioned not to come forward.
Right.
And if we did complain, we were fired. If we weren't fired immediately, a year later when there were layoffs, we were deleted and let go.
Right.
And then we were given bad job references so that we couldn't go elsewhere.
Right.
So those are all the challenges that women have that a lot of men haven't. But there are men like Terry Crews is an example.
Yes, absolutely.
And we find out it's not just about sex. It's about power.
Power.
And it happens to children, like the Corey Hames and the, Corey Feldmans.
Yeah.
And it happens to, the Kevin Spacey's victims, and it has to do with people in positions of power abusing that power over people that they have influence over, like a Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah.
Even the president of the United States in a position of power. And look at him.
Right.
Doesn't look like his reputation has suffered as much
Right.
as perhaps a woman would if they were, challenged with those kinds of things.
It's interesting because when we look at the accusations that have happened in the presidential office, and there's numerous presidents where this has been the case, we don't see that kind of scrutiny happening there, which is especially with the conversation that's happening today. It's just interesting that it's almost like this protected space. We're not messing with that,
Well, that has to do with somebody's mojo, and that's cool. It's cool to be like a John F. Kennedy, a JFK that had Marilyn Monroe and Jackie Onassis, so it's the cake and eat it too theory.
Right. Well, and in those cases, and I don't know, maybe that's what the difference is that these were consensual situations, and, I don't know, but because I think Marilyn Monroe was very much all in with this, it wasn't a sexual harassment situation, but there have been several situations in which it is, sexual harassment.
But what I'm saying is, this is where the lines are blurred.
Yeah.
They're blurred lines.
Absolutely.
Because over here you have consensual, okay, and over here you don't.
Right.
And so, let's say, for instance, Monica Lewinsky. She's very young. She could be influenced by a paternal figure who is also a power. And it wasn't an unattractive man. Bill Clinton's an attractive man.
Right.
So she's a young girl that was easily influenced. And someone like Linda Tripp said, I was vilified and bullied because I was overweight, I was stressed out, I was maybe unattractive in many people's eyes. But I looked out for Monica.
Yeah.
Because she was confiding in
young.
me.
Yeah.
And that's why she went to Ken Starr. That's why she did expose that. She saw it as an abuse of power and abuse of the office. And so it's a woman.
That's
it's a
huge.
woman who exposed it.
Right. Wow. Okay, we'll be right back.
There you go.
You use Tearless Baby Shampoo because it's gentle on your baby's eyes. You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You always test the bath water to make sure it's not too hot. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off. You make sure she wears a helmet when she rides her bicycle. You put on his sunscreen, even when he's embarrassed his friends will see. You do so much to keep your child safe. But are you using the right car seat for your child? Is your child facing the right way in the car seat? Is the seat too big or too small? How do you know when it's time to move your child into the next type of seat? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. For information on the right seat for your child, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school? Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions? No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school? Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul. No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework. Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review? No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized. I think I understand. Oh, good. Finding best potatoes for French fries. No! Russet. Fingerling. Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
Leaders aren't born. They're made, and not just anywhere. They're made in special places by special qualified trainers in places like the Academy of Creative Coaching. The Academy of Creative Coaching is an international certification program with courses in health and wellness coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, and cultural competency coaching. Courses are online, hybrid, or face-to-face. The Academy of Creative Coaching is empowering coaches to empower the world. Make a positive change in yourself and the world. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com.
Tweens have mastered the art of tuning out. Jen, there's a spider in the car. We're turning your room into a home gym. See? Nothing. But some messages need to get through. Like making sure they're buckled up the whole ride, every time. Do whatever it takes to make your child listen. Jen, I friended your boyfriend.
Wait, what?
Buckle up, sweetie.
Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Deliberate dumbing down. Dumb down society.
Deliberate dumbing down of America.
Dumb down public. Why would they do this?
Sensation Station Network. Radio, not dumbed down.
Love Notes with Dr. Pamela.
All right, so today's love note comes from Anaya. She has a question, and if you have an answer for her, you're more than welcome to jump in there. She says, Dear Dr. Pamela, oh, by the way, love note brought to you by Right Pitch Publish. It's a conference that's coming to Milwaukee, Wisconsin on April 7th for people who are interested in writing, pitching their book, and publishing their book. So urge you to come out. It's, again, April 7th, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Search for Right Pitch Publish on Facebook, and you'll find it there. rightpitchpublish.webstarts.com. Dear Dr. Pamela, I've had my heart set on becoming a medical professional since I was a kid, but I really struggle with the math and science classes. Me too. I do okay in them, but it always takes a lot of work to just get a C. I've been told that maybe there is a better career path for me, but I don't want to just give up on that dream. How can I tell if this advice is discouragement that I need to overcome, or if it's really good advice? Anaya. That's a good question. So I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. It was primarily an engineering school. A lot of people went for engineering. I was there for journalism, so I did not do the engineering thing. But I had a lot of friends who were majoring in the hard sciences, the engineering, the biology and things like that. And they did struggle. They struggled with the math classes, the science classes, and they were often told by their counselors, well, maybe this just isn't the field for you. And a lot of them pushed through and succeeded and made it, and they're now in the field and they're doing well. There's others who they ended up dropping out. You know what, this isn't the field for me, and in switching majors and going to another school. So that is a really good question. How do you know when somebody's giving you good advice about, well, maybe this isn't the field for you, or if they're being condescending and they just don't believe in your abilities? And I've certainly had that kind of advice given to me. I don't know if you've ever had that kind of advice given to you in your journey. And I would just say that, it's one thing to have a passion about something. I think what's really important is to find out where your strengths lie. Where are your strengths? I understand you're clear on your weaknesses, which you said is math and science. So you're clear on your weaknesses. But I think that if you can get clear on where your strengths are, that can help give direction to where you want to go and whether or not you're on the path that you should be on. So if your strengths are, let's say, public speaking, engagement with other people. Now, if we talk about Gallup's Strengths Finder, there's a specific 32 sets of specific strengths. Like woo is one of them, which I think has to be one of your strengths. And woo
getting people to like me, like me or hate me, either way.
Woo is where you draw people to you. You're the life of the party. So if you find that you have certain strengths that are best utilized even in the medical professional field, you can be a medical professional, but maybe it'll help you bend in the direction of the medical field that is a good fit for you. So maybe being a communications professional in the medical field might be your direction. But I would never say leave the medical field. I would say find out what your strengths are and let that guide the direction that you take within this field.
Well, if the person's passion is that, like for me as an example, when I got laid off, one of the many times I was laid off, but one of the times I got laid off, I thought that I need to go and add the initial RN to the back of my name so that I can go maybe into the OR and do surgical implantables where these people were making $250,000 a year. Wow. So I was not good in the math and sciences, but I found out about what's called the Harvard method of study. And that is where you just simply set a timer for 30 minutes. And you'll notice that about 25 to 30 minutes, your brain will begin to wander. And I used to have to study 10 to 12 hours a day for these tests and to learn statistics and all of this. And what I found was that the brain, if I tried to shove all that information in, I would only remember what I studied in the beginning and at the end.
Oh, wow.
But if I set the timer for 30 minutes and then I took a break for 5 or 10 minutes and then went back at it and then did it again 30 minutes and went back at it, I could get all the information in my brain and I would make better scores.
Wow.
And I would increase, my percentile would be
great.
higher. So I learned that if you have heart for it, it's like a horse running the Kentucky Derby. It might not be the biggest horse or, the strongest horse, but if the heart is there and the passion is there, and that's the human spirit.
Right.
So, and the same is true in the entertainment business and what I do. Some people could judge you and they could say to me, Kathy, I don't think you're funny. And I say to people, well, there's an audience for everything. And comedians do 20, 30, 40, 50 jobs. Talk show hosts, game show hosts, clothing line, all of that, and movies and voiceovers and radio. So you find your strength, as you said, and plug in to your strength.
But I love what you're saying about the strategy. So it's not just strength, but it's also strategy. So, if there is a strategy if that works, do it. Try different strategies and find out what works for you. And that's what with my writing, everybody asks, how do you get this kind of writing done? How do you accomplish it? Well, I have a method that probably isn't going to work for everyone.
Right.
I write in the middle of the night in hotel lobbies, and there's a lot of people for whom that just won't work. So I think it is a matter of finding that strategy that works for you and running with it. I mean, I think that's a great piece of advice.
Strategy is one thing, but not giving up, the perseverance. Like I heard Denzel Washington talk about it in a speech he gave when he would have got an award. Not every time he speaks, I think it's amazing the things he says. Very inspirational person. But he said, people go and they have the talent, but they quit. They give up. And I was horribly bullied when I started in comedy because I was surrounded by a lot of people in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous who were very jealous and insecure, egomaniacs with an inferiority complex, and that felt that I didn't deserve the success or deserve to be in that business for whatever reason. And I was horribly bullied. So it delayed me somewhat. But now I realize that God's always in control, no matter who thinks they're in control or tries to delay you.
Right.
And I don't think that if I had made it at that point, earlier in my career, I don't think maybe I would have stuck with it. Or I would have become discouraged if I'd gone to Hollywood. I have friends that started at the same time that I did in Hollywood, and that have been on Conan O'Brien and E! News. And I have one girlfriend who just got hired on as a reporter for The Daily Show. Wow. And the bottom line is, people say, I'm going to pick up everything. I'm going to go live, poor if I have to. I'll sleep in my car. I'll do whatever it takes. You know what I mean? And then there's those people that trade those sexual favors to get ahead that don't really have as much talent. That's why there's probably a lot of bad movies out there right now.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, it's a business. It's show business. And so you have to attack it and go at it like a business and not give up. Yeah. Because the people who succeed, like Richard Branson, who owns Virgin Airlines, You know, and Oprah says it too. Luck is when hard work meets opportunity.
Yeah.
And Branson says you should take every opportunity given to you, even if you don't think it's for you, try it out and see if it works. And sometimes that opportunity will lead to another opportunity
Absolutely.
because it's networking.
Yeah, and I always say that. Say yes, say yes, say yes. If you get an opportunity, be willing. Let yes be before any no's come to your mind. Let your inclination be towards yes, because the opportunity is there for a reason. When I speak, I tell people all the time. If you got and sometimes when I speak, it's to help other speakers become speakers. So I ask them. So if you were called by, I don't know, the state of Texas to come speak on to the oil well industry about digging oil wells, would you go? And most people I know nothing about oil wells, digging oil wells, and so they say no. I would turn that down. Are you crazy? And as I ask them, think about your area of expertise and how can you apply that to digging oil wells? And instantly they start thinking about, well, wait a minute, I talk about motivation, and I bet it can get depressing down there. Or, wait a minute, I work with bringing families together, and I bet that there's a really difficult time with families being separated. And I'm like, exactly. There is always a way to insert yourself into an opportunity.
Right, right. And it's just to use myself as an example about being bullied. I have empathy for certain people that have gone through things that I may be different from in some ways, but I can connect to them from my own experience of oppression.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how we talked about this before the show started about how the oppressed can become the oppressor.
Right.
Sin begets sin. If you have something done to you, you can turn around and find yourself doing it to someone else.
Absolutely.
And so for me, what I learned when I got sober was how to get to my side of the street and look at myself. And I say to myself all the time, how can I ever get to where I'm going if I allow all the setbacks and all the negativity and all the things that have happened to me in my life to define who I am?
Right.
Because people can look at someone. I want to bring this up. I don't want to forget. One of my friends in the program, and I'm able to say that I know him through there because we're that close. He was a homeless guy accused of burning the bridge down in Atlanta earlier this year, accused of burning the interstate down. And he's innocent. And I knew he was innocent because I know him. And the Georgia Department of Transportation put flammable hazardous materials underneath that bridge and were there for 10 years. Anybody in Atlanta who's driven by there on that street knows that. And, and so he was accused and charged and is facing these charges in a court of laws, yet hasn't been dropped, so he's facing it. He has good representation because people care. The ACLU is supporting him. And
I'm going to stop you because we're going to go to break.
Yeah.
But I want to hear that story, and I want it to do a little bit more justice. So stay with us if you want to hear the rest of that story. We'll be right back.
And so a new American industry has been born.
Sensation Station Network.
All right, welcome to the Live Exchange. This is the second hour of a great discussion with Kathy Duby, and we're talking about life's detours, and we're looking at a lot of different things. And Kathy has a really interesting story, and so a lot of that is just unfolding on today's show. And Kathy Duby is a comedian. I did not mention that. Comedian Kathy Duby, and so she's talking about her climb and the process of her finding her passion and really just jumping into it full speed. And so right before the break, we were she was sharing the story of so for those of you who live in Atlanta, and even those of you who don't, because this was national news, so
worldwide news.
This is international news. And when the freeway caught fire under the freeway, and it was the 85, I believe it was, and everybody around the country was like, what the heck is going on in Atlanta? And so there are a lot of details going on with the backstory of that particular situation. And so right before the break, Kathy was saying that she knows the individual that's being accused of this fire. And so I'll let you go ahead and take it from there.
Right. Basil Ellaby is a friend of mine that I met when I got sober 14 and a half years ago. And he's been homeless since he was 15. He's almost 40 now since this occurred. And very hardworking young man, very much loved, beloved by so many people, and has lived on the streets from he has his own trauma, his own experiences in life, and that's pretty much, he's learned to cope and was struggling with addiction and trying to get sober for so many years and not been as successful. And as many people know, it's a progressive disease. So what ended up happening was he was accused of starting this fire. He was with 2 other people who pointed the finger at him. And it's my belief, because he had been arrested many times because of his drug addiction, that he had a rap sheet and that it fit a certain profile. And he was profiled and he was accused and he was charged. And that was what they found, what they believe was probable cause, the people pointing at him. And so it's my belief when people ask me, who do you think did it then if you don't think he did it? I said, well, that's easy. It's God. God blew up that bridge. He burned it down. I'll tell you why. Because if it didn't come down, if a terrorist bomb had blown up, if something else had happened, somebody would have died, somebody would have been hurt. If a trucker's tanker had blown up there, it would have killed people. People would have been hurt. And God is always in control of the details, no matter what. You know, I mean, you can say anything you want to, but it's my belief that that bridge came down. It was a poor decision-making and a poor political decision to leave that flammable material underneath that bridge, because obviously it collapsed. Yeah. It brought it down. So, you know, what happened. Do I know who did it as far as a human being is concerned? No, I don't. But I believe that everything happens for a reason, and that God is involved in all the details of it, even the tragedies of our life, even, you know, everything that we've gone through as a country. Do I like it that my friend has been accused of this? No. Do I like it that he was jailed because of it? No. Do I like it that, you know, all these things? But the good news is, for me and for him, I love him very much. I'm never going to stop loving him. And he's getting sober. I believe that this is a wake-up call, and his life will be saved, I believe. And then his story is also a wake-up call for a lot of people, too, that thank God that people care. Lawyers that providing their services pro bono, the ACLU, caring about someone who is what the world considers the least of them to be. And there's lots of men in our prisons now that are there, disproportionately charged and accused and charged and sentenced in disproportion, as you know.
Oh, absolutely. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win a Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it. And it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He'd guide us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on that vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Great leaders aren't born. They're made, and not just anywhere. They're made in special places by special qualified trainers in places like the Academy of Creative Coaching. The Academy of Creative Coaching is an international certification program with courses in health and wellness coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, and cultural competency coaching. Courses are online, hybrid, or face-to-face. The Academy of Creative Coaching is empowering coaches to empower the world. Make a positive change in yourself and the world. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com.
This is big business. This is the American way.
Station Network.
See ya. Primary election. Lack of diversity. Gas prices.
Michael Jackson. Trending topics.
All right, so one of the things that I have really wanted to spend a little bit more time on is this Libyan slave trade. It's really disturbing, the whole story. And it broke when CNN went there and they did an investigative report on what was going on. And, apparently this is not new. It's not something that just started. It's been going on for a while, several years. And what the thing is, it's Libya is that country that separates, other African countries from Europe. And so people are using that route to try to flee to Europe for a better life, for opportunities to improve themselves, to find, because their countries may have a lot of, so it's not just people coming from one country. There's a variety of countries, and that have been, they're funneling pretty much into Libya. What's really disturbing is that once they get to Libya, they're being enslaved, and it's torture of unimaginable proportions. Some of the videos that I've seen are just absolutely disturbing. So several African countries have come together and they've said, we're going to get them out of there, and they have. And there's a lot of people who have been pulled out of there. Some sent some of them in some cases to their home country, in other cases to a third country. But Libya has started to cooperate to allow this to happen. But after I think it was Gaddafi was taken down, the country has been in disarray ever since. So what frustrates me is that we've not been active in this at all. In fact, when this first came out, Donald Trump's initial reaction was, that's fake news. It's not happening. I mean, just total denial. And so I'm going to continue to follow this story because I would like to see, what's happening. I know that, Nigeria, for example, has come in and they have taken, their people out. And, so there are some efforts that's taking place, but this stuff is still happening. So for those of you who heard the reports and you've heard that this is happening, you've seen the videos, it's not over. It's still happening. And so this is primarily men, they're taken into slavery to dig, sold for $450, to become diggers, to just a lot of different. It doesn't matter what they're being sold to do. It's just the fact that this is happening. So this is something that I'm going to be following and that I want to make sure that we are up to speed on because this is something that's got to be addressed.
Right. Well, slavery's been going on way before this, and it's been done. Sex trafficking is a form of slavery,
right?
And it's going on all over the world. Whether it's an Indian woman that goes to Saudi Arabia to be a maid, and then she ends up being enslaved, or it's someone that comes in the United States to work for someone, and they become enslaved and they can't get out, or they're put into a situation like a migrant worker who is paying rent to live on the property of the farm, and they can't ever get ahead, and they're constantly owing money. So that's a form of slavery too. It's a socioeconomic form of slavery. But obviously, this is something that's been highlighted by investigative journalism, and we're all compassionate. And I don't understand from an empathetic standpoint because I've not been enslaved in that way. But lots of people in our country, can relate in some ways to being enslaved. With what we're struggling with what's happened to us from the Wall Street bankers and the mortgage brokers and all of that, where the middle class is now, we're basically slaves, you know what I mean, to a system, So if
I can understand that from a
from a philosophical, but we're not in chains,
right?
We're not in chains.
I mean, and there's the pictures that I've seen have been just the types of torture where they're hung upside down and they're forced to fight each other to death, and if they don't fight, they're shot, so just complete inhumane,
Well, the point of that, I think, is to break the human spirit.
Absolutely,
so that then they can take the chains off and they won't run.
They won't go anywhere.
They won't go anywhere. It's a Stockholm syndrome kind of a thing.
And the thing is, we're talking about people who lived, they're just with their families, they're traveling. I mean, can you imagine? You're traveling, you're suddenly taken, and your whole life is just in their hands. completely in their hands. And,
right.
You know, it's
Well, that's what happened in our country when people, when people say, oh, well, this person, this next door neighbor of this tribe sold this person into slavery and then brought them over to our country and all of these things. We forget the social ills of slavery, and people want to forget these things, but you can't, because why? History repeats itself. If you don't learn, like Einstein, I think, is the one who said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And then, without forgetting your point, I want to go back to the point about why don't we care as a country or get involved. Well, look at Rwanda. We said people say the Holocaust didn't happen, but Rwanda was a Holocaust. The Hutsis against the Tutsis. And how did they dehumanize them? The same way the Germans dehumanized the Jewish people by saying that they were rats. The Hutsis, or I forget which one said that these people are like, oh no, the Germans said they were cockroaches or something. I don't know. But to dehumanize a person is what gives them the power then to treat you as an animal, to extinguish you, it's genocide, to kill, to destroy. And for us as a people, we got to get back to our humanity. We got to care about what's happening to people on the other side of the ocean, because it could be happening to us.
And we benefit. We benefit economically from the things that happen when these kinds of things happen, because, we trade with a lot of these countries, and we just turn a blind eye to that part of it and then just go ahead and engage in the business on the other side of things. And so when we say, oh, we don't want to get into the affairs of other countries, stuff, well, we are, because we're economically involved in a lot of different ways that we may not even, a lot of people didn't know that we were even in Niger when there was an explosion, and
our servicemen were killed.
A lot of us had no idea we were even there, but there's a lot of things that are going on in the African countries that we don't even realize that our country is involved in. And so I think we need to be awake and be aware of the ways in which we are involved, because when we talk about we don't want to get involved with the slave trade and all of that stuff that's going on, well, we are involved in a lot of different ways, so we need to pay attention to the ways in which our country is involved. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're a single man under the age of 35, you'd probably like to know what the ladies are looking for on an online dating site. A guy who had a few drinks and later got pulled over for buzzed driving. See, that could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And doesn't a guy who's back living with his parents but calls them my roommates just scream Mr. Right?
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the...
Great leaders aren't born. They're made, and not just anywhere. They're made in special places by special qualified trainers in places like the Academy of Creative Coaching. The Academy of Creative Coaching is an international certification program with courses in health and wellness coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, and cultural competency coaching. Courses are online, hybrid, or face-to-face. The Academy of Creative Coaching is empowering coaches to empower the world. Make a positive change in yourself and the world. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com.
So, I'm a dog, and I just got adopted by this new human guy, and I'm starting to wonder how he got along without me. I mean, okay, something as simple as walking around the block. He's got this leash thing, and he puts me on one end and him on the other, and I'm just taking him around. I think he's afraid of getting lost. Without that leash and me guiding him along, I don't think he'd find his way back home. But it's kind of cute.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Marie Callender's knows that you may not have time to roll out dough for a perfectly flaky crust that's made from scratch. Or enough time to mix vegetables with all white meat chicken and a homemade gravy. She knows you may not have a moment to crimp the edges of your favorite chicken pot pie. But Marie Callender's does. And when she's done, all you need to do is find time to grab someone special. Sit down and savor. Marie Callender's. It's time to savor.
Our freedom and security are made possible through the service and sacrifice of our military and first responders. The Gary Sinise Foundation provides many outreach programs supporting these brave men and women. Join us. Donate at GarySiniseFoundation.org.
Everybody successful lays a blueprint out. You laid the blueprint out. I stayed true to my dreams, and by doing that, eventually they came true.
A lot of times, you know, it's like in life, right? Life brings like drama, and you got to deal with this person, and a funky relationship here, and all these things. You try and just kind of balance them out as best I can.
Make a choice, right? You just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out your way.
Everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what real beasts do.
Unleash your beast. Write your history.
In the interest of science.
Right, so today's science, second hour, contact hypothesis. So the research is brought to you today by Peasy Heads. They bring out the best natural you. Check out their services and their products at www.peasyheads.com. That's PEEZYHEADZ.com. Also brought to you by BBLA Cosmetics. They are the ones responsible for the look on my face today. BBLA Cosmetics, a full-service cosmetic company that not only works with makeup but does skin, laser services, all kinds of stuff. So if you want to look beautiful, check out BBLA at breathebeautyla.com. So this theory is contact hypothesis. So this is the principle that bringing people together who are in conflict, where one person is bullying the other, the conflict will subside as they get to understand one another. So it's amazing what happens when people, the bully or the person who is oppressing another person is suddenly in a position of survival. Like, now I need to survive. And how willing they'll be to befriend the person who they were once, bullying or who they were once oppressing. So what happens, there's kind of certain steps in this, but remove the conflict. So basically, it is not sufficient just to nullify the source of the problems, but it is necessary. Mutual interdependence. So now they are dependent upon each other. When that happens, that tends to create a situation in which the bully is less willing to bully because now they need the person that they're bullying or oppressing. Equal status. If one party has advantages that the other does not, then this again unbalances power. Positive contact. The context for contact between parties must be conducive to friendly interactions. Typical contact, so the people that are met, they must be perceived as typical of other groups. And then social norms of equality. In this situation of contact, it must be a general norm that all parties are equal. So when these conditions are in place, this is what happens when people can be brought together and can resolve conflicts. So again, that is removing the conflict, mutual interdependence, equal status, positive contact, typical contact, social norms of equality. So here's an example. Judicial systems insist on petty criminals directly helping people they have hurt. That, and I've heard of, what is that? There's a term where restorative justice, where people who have created crimes, they bring it together with the person that they've created the crime against, to have conversation, to allow for apologies, to allow for them to understand each other's position. Restorative justice has been highly effective in a lot of cases, and I think it really does bring the humanistic aspect out in people.
And most of the time you would think that would work unless you are dealing with a sociopath who has no conscience, or a psychopath,
right?
A person who enjoys inflicting pain on someone and gets something out of it, like Dr. Phil says about, what are you getting out of that? How's that working for you?
How's that working for you? Yeah.
If a person is bullying someone or is attacking someone, or like say, for instance, we talked about sexual harassment.
Right.
If someone is repetitively doing it and they're in a position of power as CEO, I want to bring this up. it's like people are saying now, like as an example with our president, how he's not being held accountable for a lot of the women that have accused him of these same kinds of things. If a person is really good at their job and they're a CEO of a company and they're consistently sexually harassing, violating, or even raping their employees, whether male or female or both, you know, if they are doing this, is it okay because they are doing well at their job? They're making money for people? Is that okay? Are you okay with that? Now, then I say, like, one of the movies I love is, what is it called? The one with Matthew McConaughey and Ashley Judd, A Time to Kill, where he's in front of the jury and he's explaining how this little black girl was raped and murdered. And then he says to the jury at the very end, a racist jury, now imagine that she's white or that she's your child. That, what they're suggesting in that method that you suggested was empathy that is created based on a person's own life experience. But if you have an inability to have empathy because ego is in the way, you know, or worse yet, an illness, or worse even yet, evil, which does exist in the world that Adolf Hitler had, you know, and could he ever have been adjusted in any way or conditioned in any way to have empathy for those he persecuted or bullied or harassed or destroyed or killed? No, I don't believe that he could have. So if a person is in a position of power who says to the people he's over, you know, or who has relationships with, I could kill somebody on Fifth Avenue, I could murder in public, and people, no one would persecute me, no one would charge me, no one would convict me. If they already believe that, I can do anything and get away with it. I could grab someone by the vagina. I could put my tongue down their throat because I'm good looking, because I'm rich, because I'm powerful, and I can get away with it. They actually set the precedence and the standard for other men looking at him like, if he can get away with it, I can get away with it. And that perpetuates a cycle. It's a cycle. Just like domestic violence is a cycle.
Well, but so, that is so true. And what's ironic about that, though, is that now we're having conversations about convicting people who do this, though that person's not being, you know, remaining as untouchable as he's declared that he is. So those men who have looked and said, you know what, I can get away with that too, are finding out, not so much. You're not really there, which is a shame that anybody can be anywhere that would allow them to get away with this. So it's an interesting paradox of what's been going on here, because on one hand you see the worst of the worst in arrogance and in terms of, you know, I can do whatever I want and doing whatever, you know, he wants. And then on the other hand, you know, we are having this conversation and we are holding people accountable for actions. Now, I do wonder, are we holding people accountable for actions that are happening now? Because a lot of things that we're hearing about are from the past. So are women empowered today to say, yesterday, my boss did this to me? That's what I'm not hearing happening right now. So stay with us. We have another commercial, and we'll be right back.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Major key alert. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com. Brought to you by GetSchooled and the Ad Council.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, beyond differences, and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
Oh, long time no see. It's me, the Rock t-shirt in the back of your closet. Dude, remember? You crowd surfed in me, man. But you haven't worn me in like forever. I get it, you're retired, but I still got some rock left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I could really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Uncle Dan?
Mom? Dad?
If you store your guns properly, so not just anyone can get to them.
I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside. Safer when walking home.
Safer when my friends come over.
As your neighbor, I'll feel safer.
As a school teacher, I'll feel safer.
We'll all feel safer.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and we are talking a lot, just about a lot of things. I'm joined by comedian Kathy Duby, and we've been kind of on the sexual harassment thing for a while, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. Still on the social justice front, but you have been very passionate about what's going on with Kaepernick. Mm-hmm. So I would love to hear, how did you even get involved or interested in subjects related to social justice, and particularly with Kaepernick?
Well, I'll tell you, comedians aren't just people that stand behind microphones and tell funny, belly laugh jokes.
Right.
Comedians, good ones anyway, and I like to consider myself a fairly decent one, but at least that's what people say. We're part sociologists, part psychologists,
Okay.
and we're people watchers, and it's by observing, the elephant in the room, we're the ones that usually see the elephant before a lot of other people do, and we're the messenger, God's messengers, and think about Hannibal Buress. Hannibal Buress said something about Cosby, and it wasn't like a funny haha joke, but it brought attention to it. Same thing with Kaepernick. I saw what was happening, and I knew it wasn't just about a flag, and it wasn't just about, a song.
Right.
I knew it was about people that were being disempowered and disenfranchised by being choked out by the police brutality, by being shot, by evidence being planted by their body. I knew from all the way back in the beginning when Rodney King was abused, and there were people that videotaped that, and even he said, can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
So when that happened, when I saw, and most people don't know that Kaepernick was sitting at first. He was not kneeling.
Yeah.
And a veteran approached him and asked him to kneel.
Right.
Because he would say that when he went to the graves of his fallen comrades, he would take a knee out of respect, and said, if you're going, I fought for people to be able to demonstrate on both sides of the aisle, and on these, if you don't agree, you can agree to disagree.
Right.
So when I saw that he was using his platform, it incensed me and angered me when people said, I heard in the media and elsewhere, I read that people were saying, I will never watch another football game.
Yeah.
I will never buy another jersey. I will not support him. I will never watch football ever again. And my way of telling a joke at times isn't for the belly laugh. It is to make people think. And so I said, the way I feel about this subject is a lot of people have had no problem in the past with the Tim Tebow, who went to the University of Florida and then to the NFL, and he would take a knee to honor his God and respect God.
Yes,
Praise you,
sure.
Jesus. I just made a touchdown from my skill and my talent and my capability. And people didn't have a problem with that. But then when Kaepernick began to take a knee for social justice causes, not just for his own people, not for just black people, but for women and the homeless and mentally ill people and American Indians and basically disenfranchised and disempowered people,
Right.
for all people, which is we the people.
Right.
It's for all people. So when that happened, I looked at the hypocrisy, and it disgusted me as a human being. Because if you are human, you belong to the human race. And if you have not just compassion, but if you have been disenfranchised and disempowered by police, and I have been falsely accused, I have been falsely arrested, I have been charged, you know, and I make a joke in my act, you know, I've been arrested before, but I've never been convicted. You know what I mean? But for people who are convicted and then meted out an unfair sentence based on the color of their skin or even their gender or whatever, you know, you'll hear all different kinds of things, you know, like people that sit on a jury, if it's an attractive woman who was raped, they might have issues they're bringing into the jury box about the cheerleader that rejected them. So they're punishing that woman by not finding her rapist guilty, who may go on to rape and murder someone they know in their community or one of their family members. So that's how it came on my radar. I saw the hypocrisy of it. And I say that Kaepernick has taken a knee for me, for anybody who has been disproportionately affected in some way, because I'm a woman, because I have a big mouth, because I speak truth to power. And most people who do speak truth to power are going to be affected in that way. So, and I think that it's important for anybody with a voice or a platform, like I have even on a smaller scale right now, to say to people, you know, if you're affected in some way by the police, turn on your Facebook Live and say to them, say hello to my million friends. So, you know how it is.
Well, yeah, you know, it's interesting. Just the other day, my daughter and I were passing by a scene, first time I've ever seen this live happening in real life, where there's a white van and 5 police cars, police officers, guns drawn, and instructing this guy, black man, to, you know, back up. He had his hands up, backing up slowly, kneeled to the ground, you know, and we were literally right next to the scene at a red light and thinking, wow, so do I pull out my camera? Is this all going to go well? You know, what's going to happen? And, you know, I had my daughter in the car and I'm thinking, no, we need to just get out of the scene, you know, because if shots do get fired, we're in the, you know, so I commend the people who do think to pull out their phones and to record, because that is the only reason why this conversation has gone to where it has gone, because now we see the evidence. What's interesting, and I want to know what your reaction to this would be. I was, I often go write in one of my favorite restaurants. If they pay for sponsorship, I'll mention who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
But I go often and I write in this restaurant, and the table behind me were 2 guys who were talking about the football players, you know, and what they were saying. And I don't know if they were specifically speaking about Kaepernick, but they're saying, you know, I don't care what your agenda is. I don't care what you do after you get off the football field. I don't care. I just want you to play ball and shut up. That's it. So all of this political stuff, I'm good. I don't need to know what your political views are. How do you respond? I'm sure you've heard
I've heard that
statement.
Heard that argument or that side of the debate. And this is what I have to say to those people. If it was your son that was choked out or shot, you would not care where it was spoken. This is a free country, and if you're going to talk about it on your job, we're talking about it on your job right now. If it takes a person with a platform who looks like Kaepernick, a beautiful man, by the way, beautiful man, and who has people paying attention and listening, then I say praise God. Praise you, Jesus. Praise you, God, that it's upset their little game. Yeah. And if you don't like it, well, bye, Felicia. Bye-bye. Don't care if you ever watch another game. Because if it saves lives, it saves children. If it saves, you know, a child playing with a toy gun on a playground, being shot and killed. And, you know, fight, flight, or freeze doesn't just apply to you and me. It applies to people maybe in the military. It applies to people that are police officers. And there's good, I don't want to say that there's not good police officers, because there are. And I've interfaced with some of them, you know, and there has to be. Or there wouldn't be community policing. There wouldn't be safety. There wouldn't be security. And we need that post 9/11. Of course, we're aware of it much more now. But at the end of the day, Kaepernick is a voice in the wilderness. He is speaking and he's being seen, and it's no more of I don't see it, it's not happening. I don't hear it, it's not happening. I don't speak it, it's not happening. Now it's being seen and heard, and it's affecting people. And I say, yay. Yay, Jesus. You know, so, you know, Tim Tebow's a great guy, and he had a great platform too. But lives, I believe, are being saved.
Yeah.
And people are learning through public education. And even as a comedian, you know, like even being on your show, people say to me all the time, well, tell me a joke, be funny. I'm like, comedians also are activists and empowered people, and people listen to us. And your pastor might preach the same sermon every Sunday and you don't get it, but you hear a comedian tell it from the stage and speak truth to power, or tell it like it is. And it is a silent audience, and you're not getting the laughs, but they're listening and they're hearing, and then there's social change and social justice. And I'm just passionate about those things.
That's powerful. And you know, when you talk about, you mentioned several times being bullied in the industry, and it seems that, and you've insinuated this, but it seems that that's part of the reason why you're so passionate about people who are marginalized and trying to, you know, seek justice for the ways in which they've been bullied or oppressed by society. I'm curious to know about your experiences with bullying. Is there, you know, for somebody who's trying to go through the industry, what are some ways that you've experienced bullying? How have you responded to that? How do you deal with it?
Well, when you're ignorant, when you're uninformed, you're ignorant. And when I started in the business, I was ignorant from the standpoint that I thought as a businesswoman. So instead of going to other people's open mics, I decided to create my own. And I went to a business in Buckhead, and once again, we would mention them if they were paying for advertising on your show. So I went to a business, and they paid me $300 to put on a show, an hour and a half to 2 hour show, because most audiences can't sit for more than that, you know, just like a movie. And I actually had someone who was bullying me set me up to sabotage my show, to get me fired from my show, to get me not paid by the business owner. And it worked, because I was ignorant. And I didn't know, like in vaudeville days, if somebody started to do something in front of an audience, they would literally grab them and pull them off, grab the mic away from them and silence them. But I didn't know any better. So a guy came to my show and actually, interestingly enough, used the N-word. Got up in front of my audience and said the N-word about 20 or 30 times. It caused the fight or flight response. The audience were like, check please, car please, like a herd of buffalo out of there. And the owner said to me, you don't really think I'm going to pay you for that, right? And by the way, you're fired. Don't ever come back. So I was bullied, and it affected my pocketbook. And these are lessons in life, that when you're bullied and it affects your pocketbook, you usually learn the lesson, and it doesn't usually happen again. You know what I mean? So, but that did delay me for a while, because I decided to give up on my dream for a while. And it does oftentimes affect people when it affects your pocketbook, and it affects you, your advancement in your career. A lot of women especially give up, because at the end of the day, it all boils down to the bully thinking, who the heck does she think she is? I'm going to teach her a lesson. Or who the heck does he think he is? I'm going to teach him a lesson. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Taking over this territory. From now on, it's mine.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on the vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do.
Know someone being bullied online? You can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool, and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Okay, so 5 tacos of cheese and a large soda. That's $10,012. Please drive around.
Wait, 10,000 what?
It's obvious you're buzzed and driving.
I've only had a few. I'm fine.
Yeah, the food's $12, but getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Please drive around. Actually, just park and come in.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Uncle Dan?
Mom? Dad?
If you store your guns properly, so not just anyone can get to them.
I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside. Safer when walking home.
Safer when my friends come over. As your neighbor, I'll feel safer.
As a school teacher, I'll feel safer.
We'll all feel safer.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Remember, always lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Great leaders aren't born, they're made. And not just anywhere. They're made in special places by special qualified trainers in places like the Academy of Creative Coaching. The Academy of Creative Coaching is an international certification program with courses in health and wellness coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, and cultural competency coaching. Courses are online, hybrid, or face-to-face. The Academy of Creative Coaching is empowering coaches to empower the world. Make a positive change in yourself and the world. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com.
With Dr. Pamela. Dr. Pamela. Dr. Pamela.
Okay, so today's balance challenge is to roll with the punches. So whatever comes that kind of shakes you off your foundation or throws you off or catches you off guard, I want you to take that in stride. I want you to be able to roll with the punches. So that means you have to be very intentional about it. That means you actually have to plan to, okay, something happens that I don't expect, I'm going to make it a point to roll with the punches. So that is my challenge for you this week, because it is guaranteed that something is going to happen that you didn't expect, something big or small, and I want you to be mentally prepared to handle that and roll with it. And just be smooth and graceful with it. I know it's not easy. I get it. That's why it's a challenge. So we are joined by Kathy Duby, and we're close to wrapping it up. This is the last show of the year, you guys. This is the last show.
Time flies.
I know, of 2017 and 2018. We've got a lot of great things ahead, so I hope you guys will be with us then. But this is, I want you to think about, I know everybody tries to turn over a new leaf in 2018 and all of that. It's cliche, but still, I want you to do it.
Right.
As cliche as it is, it doesn't hurt to try.
Right.
So, yeah. So anyway, we've covered quite a bit, but and the time just goes by so fast, but I want to give you an opportunity to just share with us what you're doing and where they can find you. What's all of that?
Well, I'll tell you what, the focus of my career since April of this year has been social media. And I definitely want them to, if they're interested or so inclined, to go to Comedienne Kathy Duby on Instagram. I've only been on there about 4 months, and I have about 1,200 followers almost. And I would love to have them come and be able to see what a day in the life of a female comedian looks like.
Yeah.
And as I said, I'm going to be teaching a comedy class on Sundays for 6 weeks, starting January 28th. From 7 to 10, and I'll be announcing through my Instagram where that will be, where we'll be meeting, and it's $250 for the class, and that is cash up front. And then after 6 weeks, they're going to go in front of an audience that is what we call a soft audience.
Nice.
And for the first time, to be in front of their family, friends, coworkers, bosses, whatever. May not want to invite your boss if he's harassing you. Just kidding. But you get my point. So the bottom line is, in front of a soft audience, to feel comfortable the first time telling your jokes. But like I said, comedy isn't just about doing stand-up. So I'm going to be teaching them how to do comedy memes, finding funny pictures, and putting text over the top of it to exercise the comedy muscle, and then to exercise your skills of observation, to go out in the public. We're going to make videos together. And by the way, the most important thing that I hope to give you is a gift of camaraderie of 15 people. We're topping out at 15 people in the class. 15 people that will forever be your super fans, your friends. It's like graduating from a college class on comedy, and it's a comedy workshop. So I don't claim to be the expert, but I can teach you what I've learned, what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, and how to survive and maneuver the waters of the entertainment business, how to make your stuff go viral. That has happened for me.
And my definition of an expert is somebody, and I didn't claim this term, but it is somebody who knows at least one thing that the rest of the audience doesn't know.
There you go.
So what you know, I don't know. So I can sit in that class and I can learn quite a bit. So
yeah, well, it's all about empowering a person to do what they're passionate about. And if you have, it's funny to me when I meet someone who says, people say I'm funny. Like I've met a couple people at my comedy, at the comedy club, and I'm at the Atlanta Comedy Theater at 4650 Jimmy Carter Boulevard. We're in a shopping center behind the Dollar Tree and the Value Pond in the corner. And, it's an exciting place to work and be surrounded by amazing, as you know, you were there when Cedric the Entertainer was there. And I give out tickets a lot of times. Like right now I'm handing out tickets. I'm interfacing with the public. And that is my home base because I feel safest there, Pam, Dr. Pam. That is why I'm there, because as a woman, I have been bullied so much that when I'm in an environment where I can network and I can interface with people and perform with people who make me feel safe, then I can create art alongside of them and feel good about it and not feel bullied and disempowered. So that's why I'm there.
I love it. That's great. All right. Well, I am so, this was awesome, and I'm so glad to have had you join us today.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So remember, look for Kathy Duby. What is it on Instagram?
Comedienne Kathy Duby.
Comedienne Kathy Duby on Instagram. Check her out. I'm following her. She's always going live. You definitely want to check her out. So thank you so much for joining us and tuning in today to the live exchange, where we can exchange compelling dialogue around love, politics, and intellect. Join us next Thursday, the first show of the year, from 11 to 1, right here on the Sensation Station, where I'll be joined by licensed professional counselor Ruby Blow, who will be sharing her insight and expertise in creating real-life change. I'm Dr. Pamela, and remember, love yourself to life, dance confidently in the dark, and dream wildly unrealistic dreams. Have an awesome week. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, everybody!
Well, you'll see what happens. Sensation Station Network.
I don't need nobody else around. See, love the way you compliment my style, though you may end up being my only girl. Cause when you're with me, you're my whole world. Like when it's just me and you. Vibe is crazy between us two. You're my homie, my lover, and even my friend. Now I've said this before, I'ma say it again. Now here is the situation. I like what we've got happening, and I don't want nothing coming in between both me and you. Now let you be lieutenant, and you let me be captain. Tell me if that's cool. I want you to be my entourage, super fly chick, my personal superstar, super fly chick. I want you to be my entourage, I can take this very far, super fly chick. You're a star in your own right. At times you steal the whole spotlight. I don't mind, girl, you're fine. Put a smile on my face. Besides, who want a chick that no do it chase? Sometimes I know you're unsure. Wonder if this will end up. Don't make me make a promise that I can't keep. Cause it's cool how it is. Let's not complicate things, girl. Here is the situation. I like what we've got happening, and I don't want nothing coming in between both me and you. I'll let you be lieutenant if you let me be captain. Tell me if that's cool. Oh, girl, I want you to be my super fly. Yeah. Super fly chick. My entourage, yeah. Oh, baby. Super fly chick, my personal superstar. Super fly chick, be my entourage. Yeah, nothing we can take this very far. Super fly chick.
I'm taking over this territory. From now on, it's mine.
All these up, saying, baby. You ain't like I got your own lane, baby. Mentally, I'm taking your ways, baby.
Yeah.
Cause I see how you're doing your thing, baby. Me too, I think you're kinda special type to make me change my view. Make me fall in love, can't get enough of you. I swear, so true out there. Ain't nothing for me, no one for me but you. Baby, you've been on my brain, yeah, so insanely. And though I try to get you off my mind, I cannot deny it feels so right. Won't lie, no. All I want is that real love, the kind of people we dreaming of, the kind of no one believes in. But me and you can achieve it, baby. Is that way too much to ask from you, baby? Swear that I'll give you all that I got, yeah. And you ain't ever gotta worry about nothing. And if you let me, baby, I'll show you something. No matter how long it takes, I love you. My heart beats only for you. Talk about it like the front page, baby. Man, it's these, yeah, I know they gon' hate, baby. Can't let nobody get in the way, baby. Cause loving you ain't nothing but a thing, baby. Oh, I think you're kinda special type that made me change my views. Baby, fall in love, can't get enough of you. I swear so true. Oh, there ain't nothing for me, no one for me but you. Baby, you've been on my brain so insanely. And though I try to get you off my mind, I can't even lie, it feels so right, baby. Hours and dinner, we're going up on a Tuesday, baby. And I thought this would last like whatever. Diamonds, they glitter, and now you're my only focus, babe. Didn't know this would last like forever, yeah. Try to play touch. Never